There we go. Okay, hey, that sounds good. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Lincoln, everybody. My name is the Reverend Oscar Sinclair. I'm joined on the chancel this morning by our worship associate, Michael Reinmiller. The Unitarian Church of Lincoln, we say, aspires to be a loving community, uniting reason with spiritual experience to transform ourselves and the world. We have a big vision here. We know that creating a loving community begins with welcome. It is truly a joy to look out and see your faces this morning. It is a joy, too, to see name tags because we have spent so much time behind masks that I don't know half of you. I have 3 times in the last 2 days run into somebody who says, "Hi, Oscar," and I've gone, "You're not on Zoom. I don't know. Help me right now." So recognize that there will be some of that over the next couple weeks. We do need to get to know each other again. We need to recognize each other. But that is what we do here. If this is your first time here or your 500th, you're welcome. If you're here live in this room or here on the live stream, welcome. Whatever your age, gender, skin color, whomever you love, you are welcome here today. So as we enter into worship, take a moment and center yourself in this place. Leave aside what you brought into this room. Think for a moment about what your day looks like after this service, and then set that aside too. Here, 1 hour together. We have a couple notable things going on today. First, this one's more logistics. The COVID-19 Response Task Force met this week, and the result of that was that we moved masks from being required in this building to being recommended in this building. So, this is your choice. Recognize that everybody in this space has a different understanding of risk. If you want to continue wearing masks, by all means. If you're ready to not wear a mask, by all means. If you are, like me, saying, well, we're in the green right now, so I'm going to enjoy the good weather while we have it, and assume that it won't last forever, that is also an option. The other piece, you may have noticed as you came in that there were index cards. So here's a note about the life of a minister. I have 4 speaking engagements this weekend. I had 2 yesterday and 2 today. And so rather than pre-write a sermon this week, we are bringing back a thing that we used to do every year and haven't done for 3 years, which is a question box sermon. As this next hymn plays, and as the next 2 hymns play, I'm going to ask that you write down questions on these index cards. Things that you have wanted answered in sermons, but we have missed over the last 3 years or so. Then, during the second hymn, we'll ask the ushers to collect those index cards and send them up. And then I will have about 15 minutes to construct a sermon out of those questions. The ushers are currently passing around pens. If you are moved, please write down many questions. Understand, too, that one of the reasons that we do this is not so that we answer every single question, but so that we get a list of questions that the congregation would like to hear about. That list then comes out when we start doing worship planning for the coming year. Any questions about that process? No. Clear as day. If you are watching on the live stream, you can write down questions in the live stream. I will try and transcribe them during the story, and we will include them as well. All right. With that, we will enter into worship with music. Our opening hymn is number 298, Wake Now My Senses.
anyone would like to come forward for the story, you're welcome to do so now. Our story today is called The Girl with Big, Big Questions. There once was a girl with twinkling eyes and a very curious mind. This girl was always asking questions. I know a few of those, whose answers weren't easy to find. The world is so very interesting. She wanted to learn all she could, from what makes a plane stay in the sky to what makes each person good. Her days were filled with adventures galore, since her mind was so full of wonder. How long can a turtle stay in its shell? Why does lightning come before thunder? Why can't people live on the moon? What happens to stars when they fall? When will you let me stay up all night? Why even have bedtime at all? What does the dog do while I'm at school? Hey, how was the whole world made? And why do we have big hearts that can feel hurt and upset and afraid? Could I fly if I got a good running start? The nearest volcano is where? Are monsters real? What's Spanish for blue? Is it okay if I cut my own hair? I know one of those too. From the moment she opened her eyes for the day to the time she was tucked into bed, she'd ask and ask and ask and ask every single question that popped in her head. At first, her neighbors, teachers, and friends tried to answer her wonder-filled mind, but after a while, their encouraging smiles were replaced by the rolling of eyes. She noticed her questions were making them tense, and one day her class hit their limit. After she asked a dozen things about clouds, the class hollered, "Please stop, just quit it." Embarrassed, the girl tried to quiet her thoughts and not raise a voice so curious, so that no one would be too uncomfortable or, even worse, furious. But one day she found the nest of a bird built low and exposed near the ground. Why would a nest not be in a tree? She wondered and then looked around. She was all by herself with no one to ask, so she ran to the library shelves. She read about cities and the lack of safe places for birds to build nests for themselves. Like hunting for treasure, she searched and learned more answers that made her frown. With an urgent report, she announced to her class, "There are not enough trees in our town." The class, now moved by this information, asked questions about how to embark on a project to help both the birds and their neighbors by planting more trees in their parks. The girl knew then that big questions are good, and answers aren't just things to know. There are things to discover alongside each other. Asking questions is how we all grow. And that is the end of our story today. As we sing our next hymn, the children are invited to head back to sing in their classrooms today.
Our next hymn is number 126, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. Would you please rise in body or in spirit? Each week, as part of our time together, we set aside time to be a community with each other. Being a community is fundamentally about being in relationship, and being in relationship is fundamentally about connecting with what is happening in each other's world. So each day, we set aside time. Each week, it should be each day, we set aside time to share the joys and sorrows in our life. Into this shared silence, would you speak the name, your name, or the name of somebody that you are carrying in sorrow this morning? I'm going to borrow the phone over there, and I'll repeat the names from the live chat into the room. Who are we carrying in sorrow this morning? Katia. Jennifer. Lacey Lynn. Rachel. Ruth and Ollie. The people of Ukraine. Mom. I said last night at an event that joy is a revolutionary act. That simply by being together and being joyful, we say something about how the world is. Who are we carrying in joy this morning? Edith Davis is starting a new job. Happy birthday to Kelly Ross. Seeing all these people here. Yes, indeed.
Gene Helms for being brave enough to let us fly.
Jean Helms, who I believe is sleeping in. I really hope she's not watching the live stream right now. Sherry Woodbury, yes. Newly installed Reverend Sherry Woodbury of First Unitarian Church in Omaha. We had the big party yesterday. 2 years late, but...
How about Chelsea, who did a great pen pal program with the kids?
Chelsea, who did a great pen pal program with the kids. Joy in the chat, the 18th and 8th anniversary of Jeff and Trey. Joy for Barbara Pearson's nephew Ron's promotion to lieutenant. Joy, happy birthday to Duncan and his sister Leslie and nephew Tim. That's a lot of birthdays. Joy from Chelsea Krafka, 2 new hires in our preschool room, but ... we'd still love a few more if anyone knows anyone looking for a part-time job.
It's also my son Brandon's birthday.
Craig's son's Brandon's birthday. We know, too, that there are some joys and sorrows unspoken but no less deeply felt for it. Let us hold a moment of silence for those. Amen. If you join me in our next hymn, it is Ubi Caritas. It is in Latin, but it is short, and it is pronounced exactly as it is spelled. We'll sing it through a couple times as well.
Right, I'll play it through.
We'll do the offering now. I think I've got these in the right order. Let's see.
I'm going to try and spread this as long as I can so you can get that going. He was saying, everyone's singing, and he's doing this, and I'm like, oh, the poor guy. Oh, it's like a performance art, really. So the offering, right? We want money, right? So first off, I'm supposed to say you're supposed to text to UC Lincoln and the amount to 73256. To spread this out a bit, in the children's story, they mentioned the moon, which made me think of a joke. And I thought, well, I can spread this out for poor Oscar here. So the moon, the restaurant on the moon, has great food, but no atmosphere. But now that that's out of here, and I'm probably going to be hauled out, I will do the reading that I read before. I thought really fit this part of the show here, because it seems like we're asking for monetary donations, and yet, anyway, I just want to read this one more time and really try and let it sink in. Each morning we must hold out the chalice of our being to receive, to carry, and give back. I just thought that was kind of fitting for this. Was I too slow? Okay.
Art thou troubled? Music will calm thee. Art thou weary? Rest shall be thine. Rest shall be thine. Music, source of all gladness, heals thy sadness at her shrine. Music, music ever divine. Music, music calleth with voice divine. When the welcome spring is smiling, and the flowers of earth beguiling, after winter's weary rain, sweetest music doth attend her heavenly harmonies, doth lend her, chanting praises in her train, chanting praises in her train. Art thou troubled? Music will calm thee. Art thou weary? Rest shall be thine. Rest shall be thine. Music, source of all gladness, heals thy sadness music calleth with voice divine.
The Fall from Grace, David Bumbaugh writes, the great disruption of primordial order, original sin, had nothing to do with eating apples or talking snakes. The instrument of our fall was a wooden back scratcher. That piece of wood bent at the end so one can reach the unreachable spot there between the shoulder blades. No, left a little bit. Down. There we go. There where the most insistent itch always takes up residence. Before the back scratcher, before that simple infernal device, we, like all our primate kin, depended on others to do for us what we could not do for ourselves. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Before the back scratcher, before that simple infernal tool, we needed each other to scratch the unreachable itch. The wooden back scratcher dissolved the bonds of reciprocity, unloosed the ties of community, and tempted us to believe in our own godlike self-sufficiency. And God walked in the cool of the garden and saw a primate standing alone. What have you done, said God, that you stand alone? I have found a back scratcher, said the beast, and now I need no one. Poor beast, said God, now you must leave the garden. In Eden, no one stands alone. Each depends on the others. And thus began our wandering, our pacing up and down the earth, scratching our own itches, pretending self-sufficiency, the vague yearning for a primordial order, a world where you scratch my back and I scratched yours. A wooden back scratcher is a poor substitute for the gentle touch of a living hand. We'll do that piece of music from the beginning now, and then we'll see where I am with all this.
We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing till the world can hear the song, till the world can sing along. We will not stop marching. We will not stop marching. We will not stop marching till the world can hear the song, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along.
We will not stop praying. We will not stop praying.
So one of the things that we take pride in as Unitarian Universalists is that what more Orthodox churches would call the priesthood of all believers, that there is no particular privileged place of speaking in this role on Sunday morning. One of the ways that that's expressed is when you ask for questions, several come in correcting you. A comment rather than a question. I'm pretty sure the vision statement refers to spiritual exploration, not spiritual experience. Why did we move from spiritual exploration to spiritual experience? That's a significant difference. Frowny face. Our vision statement does indeed say spiritual exploration, not experience, but I'm taking this as a win because that means that people are paying attention during the welcome. And more importantly, that the language of the vision statement of this church that grounds what we do is starting to get embedded in the culture. Now, I have tripped up on those two words any number of times, and it appears that we have the version of the welcome that we've laminated up here is wrong, so we're gonna fix that. But let me talk about why I exchange those words fairly often, because that, I think, is a through line for some of the questions that we'll take up this morning. When I was learning how to preach, one of the tools that I was taught to use is what's called the Wesleyan Quadrilateral. And it's a term for where authority comes from in faith. John Wesley wrote it, but hence the name, but it's really expanded past him to be a tool for most religious leaders. And John Wesley said that religious authority comes from 4 places: Scripture, reason, experience, and tradition. And any good sermon will draw on all 4 of those. So Scripture, which we take here to be much broader than any one set of religious scriptures, but a text that you're responding to. Tradition, which is the weight of everybody that's come before. David Bumbaugh, who wrote that back-scratcher poem, is the teacher of one of my teachers. So drawing on him is drawing from the weight of tradition in Unitarian Universalism. Reason, because I can't remember who said it right now. This is the problem with extemporaneous preaching, but reason because I'm pretty sure it was Emerson who said that preaching is faith passed through the crucible of life, something like that. We'll edit that out for the recording. But everything that we do has to be grounded in reason. And last, experience. Because in our tradition, the transcendentalist movement comes out of Unitarianism and says that all the rest of that aside, the test of whether or not something is true is, does it match your experience? That is the ground of our faith, that everything else gets tested on. Different denominations put emphasis on different places. So the Methodists, for instance, say that Scripture is the most important of those 4. For Unitarians, I think we put experience at the core. Because if I hear something and it does not match my experience, then I have to use my reason to come up with a different answer. If I use purely my reason, then I end up in some intellectual cul-de-sacs that are getting expressed in Lincoln often these days. So I've often gotten that wrong, because our vision statement actually does say exploration. Next set of questions. Is Unitarianism a religion? Or like Buddhism, Taoism, and others, a way of life? Belief-O-Matic says I might be a modern Quaker. What is the difference between Unitarian Universalists and Quakers? Belief-O-Matic says that I am a Reform rabbi. The difference that we joked in seminary was that Unitarian Universalists are mostly modern Quakers who can't stay quiet for very long. Theologically, we're similar. But this does get to the question, because it is often folks come to our churches through this Belief-O-Matic thing that's existed on the internet for 20 years now. Because often people test as Unitarian Universalists. Like 10% of people who take that test come out as Unitarian Universalists. There are 500,000 Unitarian Universalists in America and 350 million people. So if you actually do that percentage calculation, we are perhaps overrepresented in the Belief-O-Matic. So a lot of people find their way to us saying, I took this test online and it says I'm Unitarian Universalist. What does that mean? Is this a religion? And it's always a complicated question to answer. Because here's the next set of questions. Where else can those of us who are atheists join a community if not here? Is UCL atheist friendly? Next question. How does a Christian Unitarian fit in with this congregation? What can we do to nurture the spiritual lives of those who identify as Christian? Who is God in the Unitarian Church? The answer is all of those things are true. Because Unitarian Universalism is a religion. I want to hold on to that. We are actually more a religion than we are a denomination, because we are not a subset of a larger faith. But we are trying to do this experiment for the last 50 years. Unitarian Universalism merged in 1961. And in that merger, decided not to be creedal. Decided that they would take the best of the Unitarians, the best of the Universalists, but they would not make any test of what you need to believe to be part of this merged Unitarian Universalism. That's an experiment that feels like it's been going on a long time. But 60 years is the blink of an eye. In the history of religion, 60 years is nothing. It is establishing this new thing. The whole time between the life of Jesus and the letter to the Corinthians is about 60 years in the Bible. There's a 60-year gap there. That's where we are as Unitarian Universalists. So a lot of the first 60 years of our being have been trying to answer these questions. How do we have a religious community, a religion that has a discrete identity, Unitarian Universalist, and that is welcoming to people of different beliefs? Christian, non-Christian, atheist, Buddhist. Our answer mostly has been that it's about how you act, what you do, and not what you believe. That's the quick and easy answer. The principles begin with, these are the things that we covenant to affirm and promote, not the things that we believe. And that's the important distinction, because whatever your theological position, we can covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of each person. If your theological position is such that you cannot affirm the inherent worth and dignity of each person, then we'll have a conversation. If you can't act that way, then that's where we start to run into some trouble. But that's never really been done before. We're still figuring it out, this idea of being a faith community grounded in how we are together rather than what we believe in common. There's uncharted waters in the history of religion, and we have not been doing it for very long. And so we have had some bitter fights about this, particularly between humanists and Christians, both of which have a long claim to both Unitarianism and Universalism. And in the last 20 years, we've started to reconcile that. One of my mentors, actually one of the people that I shared the dais with yesterday is Kendall Gibbons, who wrote about the language of reverence as a way through. Kendall had for 20 years been one of the most identifiable religious humanists in Unitarian Universalism, the most identifiable atheist ministers in our tradition. And she wrote this essay on the language of reverence, saying that my humanism does not bar me from using the language of God or talking about Jesus on Easter. And it, I think, was a turning point in some of those fights, where we stopped really fighting about the language that we were using and started saying, well, okay, but how is this an expression of these core things that we do together? Pointing to the principles over on that wall. That's the short version. There's a much longer version of that answer. But that one we'll write down ahead of time. Right. So here's this other. How do you respond to those who say religion builds morals, and by having no religion, I have no morals? First of all, that's nonsense. My dog has no religion, but my dog has morals. We caught her sleeping on our bed the other day. She knows the difference between right and wrong before she's told. So we know that you do not require religion to have morality. But beyond that, thank you. Beyond that, I would say that Emerson said that a person will worship something. There is no such thing as an unreligious person. The Latin root of religion is religiare, to bind. So your religion is the thing that you bind yourself to. That might be a Unitarian Universalist church. That might be a Catholic parish. That might be the Kansas Jayhawks. Can certainly be Nebraska football, although that is a hard and bitter religion these days. So we are going to have religion in our lives. That's almost a given to me. The question is, does your religion help you to live a better life? And I'm here because I think it does. I think that one of the best ways that I know to become a better person is to be involved in a community of people trying to be better, theoretically. So how do you respond to people who say religion builds morals, and by having no religion, I have no morals? Say it's a logical fallacy, and then say I have morals. Here they are. Here are the things that I believe. Here's how I act in the world. Here's what it means for me to be a good person. Nobody else can judge that. That's up to you. What should one do about family members who don't feel that the Unitarian Church is a good church, or that attending is sinful? Mostly the same answer. I had, in some ways, the opposite experience of this. So my grandfather, Milt Powell, left organized religion 50 years ago. And he left and never came back. He was a preacher's kid and had a falling out because he tried to integrate a Methodist church in East Lansing, Michigan in the 1960s. The church split. And he decided that if that was the kingdom of God on earth, he wanted no part in it. And so left forever. He was an English professor, so he became a very committed reader of Dawkins and Hitchens, and it was a formative influence in my life. When I was a kid, we lived with him and my grandmother pretty often. And so when I told him I was going to seminary, there was just this long silence. Tell me more. So I don't exactly know the experience of having family members who disapprove of me being part of this church. That's not a thing that I can comment on myself, but I can say that for family members with deeply different religious commitments than I have, the way I've gotten through it is by saying, well, what are we talking about? When I talk about God and when my grandfather talks about love, it is really the same thing once you dig a couple steps down in the metaphor. But that took a couple years, and I'm not sure he completely understands what I'm doing here. And that's okay. That's okay. Ultimately, religion is what we make of it, not what other people make of it for us. I think those are the heavy questions that I want to take up today. There's a number of others that I'm not going to, because we've either taken them up in recent sermons, we'll take them up in sermons in the next month, or frankly need more time than I have this morning. Why do bad things happen, for instance? This is a really, really important question. Maintaining hope in a world with so many seemingly impossible challenges. That is a really, really important question. And that's a question that deserves more than 5 minutes of extemporaneous preaching on Sunday morning. But in the few minutes that we have, there are some practical questions here. Will we have an outdoor service this summer? Yes, we will. We have a date. It is August 18th. We've rented the band shell and everything. It's happening. What are the areas of focus for the congregation this year? Any board members want to take this one? Nope. Let's see if I can get them right. Jackie's got them.
I can do two of them.
All right.
LGBTQAI+, welcoming committee recertification.
Yep.
And looking at anti-racism more seriously in the congregation.
Yes. So we said we were going to...
Building facilities, mapping out what money we need to maintain what we have.
So we said that we would continue the work of transforming the world through our work in anti-racism, in welcoming, and in climate change. Those were the three. We also said as a practical thing for the board that we would focus on long-term building maintenance as a goal. That is a perhaps less exciting one for Sunday morning, but more exciting for board meetings. And the third one was simply to be with each other. This has been an intense and difficult 2 years. This is the first time that I'm looking out on Sunday morning and seeing most people not in masks in 2 years. That is a wild ride that we've been on. So the last goal was simply to be together and give ourselves grace. Best book you read during the pandemic, Amy Miller. Susan Bowden wrote a book called How to Lead When You Don't Know Where You're Going. Church Leadership in Liminal Times. Which sounds exactly like its title. I had the luck to take a class with her, and she really emphasizes that last thing. It's a board priority, that we actually don't know where we're going right now. We know that we're not going back to where we were in 2019, but I can't tell you what the church is going to be right now in 2023. Nobody in the institutional church in America can tell you what the church is going to look like 2 years from now. So how do we embrace this moment and live into it, even in uncertainty? It's a great book, but maybe not a general audience book. Any collaborations planned with other congregations? Yes. I was up in Omaha yesterday. We installed Sherry Woodbury as the new settled minister up there. She is coming down to preach here next Sunday, while I go out and preach at our fellowship in Kearney. In May, our affiliated community minister, Kimberly Debus, is coming out here for about a week and a half. She'll preach on Sunday and then again on Thursday night. Going forward, there's a brand new minister at Second Omaha in Nebraska, and we'll do an installation for them shortly. And the hope is that with 3 now installed ministers in Nebraska, that we will do more collaborative work in the future. It's a really, really exciting thing because 3 of us. It's also a little awkward because I'm now like the old man of the Nebraska Ministers Association, which happened awfully fast. But when I started, there was very little interaction between the 3 Nebraska congregations. Just circumstances of transition here and some ministers in Omaha who were perhaps not, were more focused on what was going on at their congregations than collaborating. But we have this opportunity now to start building those ties, and I'm really hopeful that we will do it. All right, last question, easy one. If when intelligent life is confirmed, how will that affect UUs in general and you in particular? If intelligent life is confirmed. Gandhi was once asked, "What's your opinion of Western civilization?" And he said, "I think it would be a good idea." But, so intelligent life, that would be a good idea. No, in truth, that question is asking about if there is life other than humanity that's intelligent, how will that affect UUs in general and you in particular? I preached on this a couple of years ago. There's a thing called the Drake equation, right? Where you take the percentage of stars with planets, and then the percentage of planets in a zone where there can be liquid water, and then the percentage of planets with liquid water that develop single-celled life, and then the percentage of those that evolve into multicellular life, and the percentage of those that, anyway, it's like a 17-variable equation. But the thing is, we know most of those variables, or can at least take a wild guess at them. And we know a minimum number of stars in the sky. It is a high, high number. So even if you assume that intelligent life is minuscule in its probability, a very small probability multiplied by a very, very, very large number still gets you a high probability. So for me, it wouldn't change a whole lot. For Unitarian Universalism, I don't think it changes much. Because we say that we are all interconnected, and that we all have inherent worth and dignity. So that would be the question, is how do we extend that interconnection? And in that, we're already doing that work, beyond intelligent life. The question, we'll take this up actually in 2 weeks on Earth Day. The question of interconnection is a question of ecological justice here, beyond our species. And so that continues. It is now 11 o'clock. I have talked a lot. I'm not sure that the transitions worked well, we'll put it that way. But I appreciate the questions. I have this pile, and if you have more, please send them in. But we will draw this service to a close now. Yep. Our closing hymn is a number that I don't have written down, but it is "We Are Building a New Way." So would you please rise in body or in spirit and sing this?
Very short intro, people.
Very short intro. Unitarian Universalism is defined considerably more by the questions we ask than the answers that we have. So, to send you forth, keep asking questions of yourself, of each other, of any institution you are part of. Questioning is an act of faith. Go in peace, go in kindness, and go in joy. Amen.
When the ground drops out from under you, and there's nothing there to hold on to, no, you're not the first to fall right through to a space of mystery, a place of questioning who you are and who you're meant to be. When you can't find home where it used to be, and your roots have faded into memory, no, you're not alone in this new reality. It's a well-trod path traveled by ancestors who came before and showed the way. Throughout time, we've been pushed into the dark, called to find the light within our broken hearts and let it shine. And we can't do it on our own, gotta find our family in the unknown. And side by side we'll go by stepping stone till the journey becomes our home. Some days it feels like searching for water in the sand. Sometimes it feels like falling with nowhere to land. Yeah, there are ups and downs that'll turn you round and round. We come back to the footprints, they're all around. And throughout time, we've been pushed into the dark, called to find the light within our broken hearts and let it shine. And we can't do it on our own, gotta find our family in the unknown. And side by side we'll go by stepping stone till the journey becomes our home. When the walls are closing in, we find our way out through the door into a light that's so much brighter than our hearts have known before. When we heed the call to follow the voice that burns within our core, we join the ranks of seekers, wanderers, and warriors of the soul. And throughout time, we've been pushed into the dark, called to find. Throughout time, we've been pushed into the dark, called to find the light within our broken hearts and let it shine. And we can't do it on our own, gotta find our family in the unknown. And side by side we'll go by stepping stone till the journey becomes, yes, the journey